A few days ago, Germany, in conjunction with the European Union and France, convened a meeting in Paris to deal with resource mobilization for the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in Sudan, which I'm sure all of you know when you look at the data across the conflict areas. It is actually the country with the largest displaced people, the country that is today suffering the biggest crisis in terms of the humanitarian crisis. And that meeting was convened to bring the spotlight back to what is unfolding, but because sometimes the media attention may be different, we have focused a lot on the challenges in Ukraine, challenges in the Gaza, and what is unraveling right in the middle of the continent, in the 15th largest country in the world, seems to be going unnoticed. Why do I bring this up? Because the conflicts in Africa have now put close to 98 million children out of school. Their schools have been destroyed. Some have become relief centers. Some have been taken over by the military in those, or the warring factions in those areas. And therefore, the challenge and the impact on our children is going to be very devastating, and it will last for a long time. We live in an area where coups and all sorts of conflict take more than 40 years for a nation to recover. Now, what happens to the young and budding brains during that period? What happens to them? What do they become? Then there are the challenges you deal with, vaccinations, the school feeding programs, and all this that all help to bring up the children. And UNICEF is right at the center of some of these challenges. Even here in Kenya, you've been giving us a lot of support on vaccinations of maybe malaria, polio, and all sorts of diseases that are very dangerous when they get to anybody, let alone to the children. So why do I bring this up? The target at this convening was that the world needed to raise about $4 billion to intervene on the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. The session got pledges of $2 billion. That is 50% of the projected target of 4. Now, here you are sitting here, and so many other people sitting elsewhere. Can you imagine that we are raising this kind of resources for humanitarian intervention and not for building schools and providing medicine as we should for our young children, particularly in the continent of Africa? So the crisis that we are in today is mind-boggling and scary, because if we are to get out of the challenges that we are talking about and the focus as we manage, we are now raising resources that I don't know how the African continent would have been if we were raising this 4 billion or so in peacetime, in a moment when those resources, either through UNICEF or through any other body, are being targeted to the well-being of children. You can imagine the impact that it would have on our lives and into the future. So as we look at the resources here that have to be raised even for UNICEF, it is unfortunate that you are now competing with conflict. Resources are being diverted. The Congress has just passed these bills. When you see the figures that are supposed to go, say, to the Ukraine or go into Gaza, compare it to what you, as UNICEF, are trying to mobilize for the children of this world. So serious interventions are required across the globe, internally in governments and in our institutions. But primarily, the message I'm trying to put across here, as we look at the financial management, is that perhaps the most critical ingredient at the end of the day is a peaceful environment that can allow us to resource appropriately and also use those resources to better the lives of our people, wherever they may be.